Hey everyone, I'm Jay. I'm one of the edible landscapes managers here with Ideas for Us in fleet farming. Today we're going to be talking about one of our main staple plants here, known as African Blue Basil. It's probably one of the most common plants that you'll see in any of our gardens or landscape designs, and for a good reason. So we're going to talk a little bit about it. This one in particular has just gone through one of our recent cold spells that we had a frost. And it got hit pretty hard. We trimmed it back a little bit, but as you can see, it has all this new growth growing. And for that reason, it's one of our main staple plants, because this is kind of one of the plants that are, we could kind of go for saying guaranteed, quote unquote, for as far as like the plants that we use, just because it's a prolific plant that is constantly being swarmed by all bees and butterflies all the time when it has flowers on it. And it's a perennial basil, unlike many of the basils that we're familiar with in the culinary world, meaning that this basil, instead of lasting only good for one season, it could actually be good indefinitely. But it is a sterile variety, which means that it doesn't grow from seeds, that you actually have to take a cutting off of the plant and put it in another pot or in the ground to get a new plant from it. It's a hybridized plant from two African basils. One of them is a camphor basil and the other one is a dark opal basil. So that's why a lot of the times when you see African blue basil, it's called blue, because it has some of like the purple genetics from the other plant that come through in its veins or things like that. And also the flowers and stuff have a really nice purple and blue hue to it. It actually doesn't seed. You have to propagate it if you wanted to start a new plant, to clone it. It's actually not from Africa. The parents of the genetics are from Africa. So the camphor and the opal basils are both from Africa, but it was actually hybridized in Ohio here, which is kind of funny. And this one in particular, we've been using it so long through fleet farming that we kind of, I want to say, hybridized our own version of this plant. So I'm going to start calling it fleet basil instead of African blue basil. Ours rarely gets purple anymore, but they're still perennial. I use these a lot in my flower beds, like at the perimeter of houses, because they could fill in like bushes and they just smell great to walk past. They're always full of flowers and bees, which you could simply just cut any of these flowers off and add that to like your tomato sauce or a pesto or something like that, and the flavor and scent goes a long way. It's a little bit more, since it is from camphor basil, I guess you could say it's a little stronger of a scent and a flavor than your typical sweet basil. I like to use it mostly to make iced tea. Since it does grow so big and fast, a lot of times in summer, I trim this baby back a lot. So I'm left with like armfuls full of this stuff. So instead of composting it all, I just make a huge batch of tea. And most of the time, if I don't drink that tea straight up like an iced tea, I turn it into yummy mead, which pairs very well with the profiles of honey. So there's so many good uses of this basil. Not only does it attract so many awesome pollinators, it looks beautiful, it smells beautiful, and lasts all year here in this climate. So stop by our nursery and get yourself some African blue basil, or if you have a consultation and want a garden design with us, this will probably be one of the plants that we bring along with us. So it's part of the Lamiaceae family, just like most herbs are, which is just a botanical family for a specific group of plants that most herbs are in. And one of the distinguishable characteristics of that is, like, if you look at the stems, they're actually polygonal, and like instead of like a circle or something like that, a lot of them are like square or rectangle in its shape, which like all mints, basils, plants like that share in common, as well as all of them having like a super strong smell or medicinal property, something like that. So that's the Lamiaceae family. And basils are mostly the Ocimum genus. So two Ocimum somethings turned together to make African blue basil. So this flower actually has the actual pistils, flowers on it, which are super cute. So the plant itself, like I was saying, is perennial, especially in zones 10 or warmer. We're in 9B here, so we're kind of on that edge of 10, so it does happen to last all year here for us. And as you can see, if it does get a little cold, it might, rock it a little bit, but it'll come right back. And it's also one of the most resilient plants for pests and diseases like that, doesn't really get any. And you know, might be a cool plant to try to grow indoors in your house as a house plant too, because of its resiliency and stuff like that. So stop by our nursery and pick up an African blue basil today, or get a consultation so we can add one to your landscape.